freedom. That's the reason you do it, okay? Because otherwise it rules your behavior. And it's very important to be, for me, it's been really important to be free to love Ronnie the way he most needs and wants to be loved, right? Rather than just behaving the way I think is normal. There's this notion of what's normal that's kind of planted in your brain from what you observed growing up, right? And we just don't even question it. We think everybody's normal is the same, first of all, right? You know, and then it's a big, discovery when his normal doesn't match my normal, right? But I think for, the real key is so that I could be more effective. If my job is to convince him he's loved and lovable, right? I've got to find out what's going to make him feel loved and do that. But I'm not free if other things are driving my behavior. And sometimes it's, things that were innocuous, or just because it worked really well for my mom in loving my dad doesn't mean it's going to work in loving Ron. Ronnie is the opposite of my dad, first of all. But even if he were very much like my dad, he's not my dad, and that's the whole point of it. And so what happens is we waste time doing things that miss the mark, that aren't what the other really longs for, But once we bring that stuff to light, we get very free of it.
Family of origin is important because it affects our behavior. And even though we left home a long time ago, it's incredible how we brought home with us. And no matter how old we are still impacted by things that we experienced very early in our lives. What we became comfortable with, we tend to be comfortable with for our entire life. And it takes a conscious realization to realize that comfort zone is not necessarily the other's comfort zone, but also I'm not wed to that if it's not in the best interest of our relationship. I can choose other behaviors that would be more helpful.
See, none of us think we're going to be like our mom or dad. And in fact, most of us have sworn we would not be like our mother or our father, right? And then we find ourselves acting just like they do, or saying the same things, right? And I think what happens is we observe something growing up, and it just sort of those tapes get filed back in there somewhere. But then when we find ourselves in that same situation, that's where they play out, So not until I became a parent did I sound so much like my mother, and I'm saying the same things that are in there.
And they often become very subtle sources of friction in a relationship. We just rub each other the wrong way, and what we're really doing is your normal's not my normal, and it rubs the wrong way, and we get irritated because he's not loading the dishwasher right, because it's not the way I like to load the dishwasher, or the way we did it in our home growing up.
The terrific thing is that really we look at family of origin to discover our own attitudes that we picked up there. And the great revelation and liberating insight is that these things are not genetically coded the way we think. We think it's part of our personality or it's in us because in our DNA, but typically it was just an attitude we picked up from watching mom and dad. And if it's not helpful, we let it go. And some of them silly, honestly, my parents had a terrific marriage. They were really in love. They had a lot of fun. My mom would get dressed up and come down the stairs, and my dad would hoot and holler and whistle at her, and there was a lot of chemistry going on, and they really were terrific. And so you would think I could just model my marriage after that one, right? My dad would romance my mom. He'd bring home gifts and flowers and offer to take her out to dinner and things like that. So what I took away from that was an attitude that when it comes to romance, the man pursues the woman. It never occurred to me that Ronnie might like it if I pursued him. It just wasn't, a lady doesn't do that. It wasn't on my radar. Turns out he really does, especially to initiate anything romantic like lovemaking, right? But I just missed a lot of opportunities, to love him the way he wanted to, because I just never questioned that normal. Of course, the man pursues the woman,